We continue our look at the Paris cafe life with the painting Plum, also known as Plum Brandy from 1878. You can see she has a plum brandy in front of her. Again, this is an interesting painting because we start to see kind of the emotional effects that we have within the society. Again, this is a painting about loneliness as much as anything. You'll notice she has a cigarette in her hand that is yet to be lit. She's waiting for somebody to come and light her cigarette, if you will. But when you look at her face and you look at the general expression and the feelings that she has or emanating, again, this isn't a happy woman. This is not a woman who's overjoyed to be in the situation that she's in. She looks, frankly, very tired. If you're familiar with Edgar Degas' painting In the Cafe, also known as Absinthe, this is actually thought to be the same woman between the two paintings, the same model, if you will. And again, when you look at this, we do get the same kind of sensation that we had from before. We have these people who are supposed to kind of be in this joyous occasion, but when we really look at the reality of it, they don't look so joyous. They look very tired. They look very downtrodden. In many senses, if you will. Again, if you think of Plum in many ways can be thought of as along the same lines as what we're seeing here. Many of these kind of cafe paintings that we have during this time depict different aspects of life. One of the more famous paintings we have by Manet, painted between 1878 and 1879, is in the conservatory, kind of moving a little bit back, if you will, to what we think of as this more realistic depiction. And again, a lot of the work that we have by Manet at this time is portraiture or work that of people around him as he's returning to Paris. Of particular note, if you look in the corner, we have that blue and white vase that might be a piece of the kind of faux Japanese art that we have emanating around Paris at the time. This painting is of course very famous because it made what is known as the Hitler art list, the list of art pieces that Hitler wanted to essentially collect throughout Europe. And this was a painting, as you can see from this beautiful picture that we have, I believe down in a salt mine. Of the painting actually being rescued by the people who would later be known as the Monuments Men. Even though that's kind of an exaggerated story, we do have some of the truth of their mission and the recovery of these works by them during World War II, including the Manet painting that we can obviously see in the photograph that we saw before. We see this conservatory again, but in a very different style of painting with Madame Manet. Again, a little bit more abstract here, a little bit more using the technique of the slapdash brushstroke that we're so used to seeing with Manet. And again, you can definitely see the impressionist presence within the work. We see Madame Manet continuing throughout these series of portraits throughout the life, and she always seems like such a firmament within the existence of Edouard Manet. We know that he had multiple affairs and was very much the man about town, if you will, and I often wonder in their relationship if she had as much of a motherly caregiving role as much as anything else. We have another wonderful painting from one of these cafes, and here we have two lovers looking at each other and exchanging pleasantries. And again, a wonderful use of painting technique with the foreground really registering as something very solid and firm, but as we move away and we look at the waiter in the background, he becomes hazier, as this would be if we were focusing on the couple. Again, we need to remember that a lot of these compositions are starting to be affected not only by Japanese prints and Japanese art, but also by photography, where when you look at photography and how it positions things in a natural way, meaning that this is what you would just kind of experience all of the X factors that you would in daily life. This is kind of one of the concepts we do start to see permeating back into paintings. We have this wonderful memorial type of painting here we have a one-legged gentleman on crutches on the left, and then just a nice street scene and a kind of a view into what the streets actually look like. They were these cobblestone pieces, the rue, if you will, and these are the famous cobblestones that were used against the French soldiers during the French Commune. They would actually throw these down from the top. This is just a nice simple piece. Juliette Dodou, I believe is how you pronounce this woman's name. She was kind of a heroine from the Franco-Prussian War, so this is just a nice little, I believe this is an engraving by Manet that's featured at the Dallas Museum of Art. Again, just kind of showing the versatility that we experience with Manet. Most of the work that we're looking at is paintings, but he also did engage, obviously, in printmaking as well. A lot of the work that we see from this time by Manet is actually portraiture work, people around him. This isn't true of what we're seeing here, but again, a lot of just kind of simple portraiture, the sign that he's getting commissions, etc. Here we have a self-portrait, and this is kind of this dark moment in Manet's life, in my opinion, and a lot of this is reflected through this painting. Very long story short, he had syphilis from going to too many brothels, and what occurs to him as he kind of continues through his life is he starts to have nerve damage. He starts to have the inability to really control the brush and that type of thing. And as we kind of continue on, this syphilis takes more and more of an effect on his being, and his painting becomes more and more difficult to achieve. What actually occurs later on in his life is he goes through medical treatments, kind of these bizarre medical treatments that they were trying, experimental of the time, where he received injections in his foot to kind of deal with this, and the procedure went horribly wrong, and his foot became gangrenous and eventually needed to be decapitated. We're a little bit ahead of that part of the story. That's something that occurs more in the fourth one. But as we continue and we look at the work, we kind of see this softness starting to creep in. Again, this syphilitic kind of aspects of his life and his inability to really paint these focused images. Irma Brunner as a pastel from 1880, and again, I've always enjoyed this image even as a young child because of the starkness of the colors. We have this incredibly dark top within the hat and this woman's hair, this incredibly white powdered skin in contrast, almost forming a yin-yang, if you will, between the top part of her head and the face itself. And then you have this wonderful pink blouse that kind of accents and is even, we see this pinkness again a little bit within the ear of the individual. Again, just a very simple portrait like I was mentioning before, but a lot of what we see during this time is this type of thing. Again, another print from the Dallas Museum of Art. This is actually closely connected to a painting that we see around the subject matter of spring. Again, when we look at this and we kind of compare this to some of the other prints that we have, we can see he's adding a lot of kind of details within the background, translating over this impressionist style that we see within the painting now directly into the prints, where a lot of the prints that we've kind of showcased in these lectures kind of have more of a simplistic approach, very much showing off just the subject matter with little approach to the background. Again, this is the painting, and when we look at them in comparison, we can kind of see this translation that Manet is making between what we think of as the floral aspects of the background over to what we think of as linear aspects within the print in themselves. We have these larger, flatter planes within the painting that have been reduced to almost a hatching, especially if we look at the bottom of the print in comparison to the painting. We'll notice that Manet has done quite a bit more work in that area in comparison to the painting.